Namaste everyone, I am Gyan and you are watching the session 6 of Java and Web Constructors. In this video we will do some more experiments with constructors in Java. We already know the first two rules of constructors. Name of the class and constructors must be same. Constructors should not return any value. But what will happen if we apply a return type with a constructor? Is it a compile time error? The answer is if a constructor returns a value, then it is not a compile time error. But in this case, the constructor will be treated as normal method. In fact, a method returning a value is not more constructor, even if the method name is same as the class name. We have a Java file constructor.java which contains two classes, the class point and the class main. The class point has a method whose name is same as the class name, but this method returns void. So even if the name of this method is same as the class name, but this method is not a constructor. Because this method is returning something, this method is returning void. Say the class main contains the method main, so we need to pass the name of the class main to the JVM. The JVM starts execution from the method main. The first statement in the method main is creation of an object of type point using default constructor. But you should notice here that the class point does not contain any constructor. Here the method point is the normal method, it's not a constructor. So here creating an object using the default constructor uses the default constructor provided by the Java compiler. So this statement does not print any output because this statement is not calling this method. This method is not a constructor. That's how this statement is not calling this method. But we can call this normal method using an object reference of type point. This normal method is not static, so it's an instance member method. That's how we need to call this method using the object reference of type point. When we call p.point, then this method will be called and it will print normal method. Let me execute this code practically. Open constructor.java and this is the code. Here we are calling the normal method point using the object reference p of type point. The method point is an instance method. So let me save and compile this code. Java C constructor.java. It compiles fine, then run it. Java main, since class main contains the method main. It runs fine and printing normal method. Let me change something in the code and comment out the statement where we are calling the normal method point. I am calling this method a normal method again and again to emphasize that it is not a constructor. So here we commented out the method call. Now creating only object cannot print the normal method string because here point is not a constructor, it's a normal method. Let me save and compile this code. Java C constructor.java. Compiles fine, then run it. Java main. It runs fine and printing nothing because the object creation have not called the method point. So we can create a method, a normal method whose name is same as the class name. Or in another word, we can say that if a constructor is returning something, then it is not more constructor. It's a normal method now. In this case, the compiler will not throw any error. In this case, in the class point, we have the two methods with the same name as the class point. The first one is a constructor which is returning nothing, and the second one is a normal method which is returning void. When we create an object of type point, then the constructor will be called and it will print the string constructor. And when we call the normal method point using the object reference p of type point, then it will call the normal method and the program will print the string normal method. So this statement prints constructor and this statement prints normal method. Let me execute this code practically. Open constructor.java and this is the same code as we seen. The class point has the default constructor point which is printing constructor, and the class point has a normal method point which is printing normal method. When we create an object, it will call the constructor and the program will print the string constructor. And when we call the method point using the object reference p of type point, it will call the method point. In this case, the program will print normal method. Let me save and compile this code. Java C constructor.java. Compiles fine, then run it. Java main, since class name main contains the method main. It runs fine, printing constructor and normal method. Constructors are instance members of a class and behave like instance methods. But unlike normal methods, we cannot call constructors using object references. Here in this case you can see the class point has a default constructor. The class point does not have any other method with name point which is returning something. So that's how if we try to call the constructor point by using the object reference of type point, then the compiler will throw an error. Let me try this code practically. Open constructor.java and let me comment out the method point from the code. Now the class point has only default constructor. Now the class point does not have any method whose name is same as the class point. So in this case, if you try to call the method point by using the object reference of type point, the compiler will throw an error. Because unlike the normal methods, the constructor cannot be called using the object references. The constructor can be called only when you are creating an object. Let me try to compile this code and see what the compiler is saying. Javac constructor.java. Compiler throws an error, cannot find symbol p.point. Here the compiler cannot find the method point. The class point contains the default constructor, but the class point does not contain any method whose name is point. We cannot call the constructor recursively. Here in this case the constructor main is calling itself, and this is not allowed in the Java. This is a task for you to apply this code in a Java program. And let me apply this code in a different way. Open constructor.java. And this is the code. Let me call the constructor point from the constructor point itself. Right here point. Since the point is not a static method, even the point is not a method, only default constructor we have. So in this case the compiler will throw an error that it does not know what the point is. Let me comment out this statement. Now we do not want to call the method point using the object reference of class point. Now save and compile this code and see what the compiler is saying. Compiler says cannot find symbol point. So the symbol, which is a method point, cannot be found by the compiler. We can create another object of the class in its constructor. But see what will happen here. When in the method main you create an object of type main, then it will call constructor. But calling the constructor again will create another object of type main. So creation of this object will again call this constructor. This constructor again creates an object of type main, and creating object of type main calls this constructor again. And this process will be continued to infinite time. Let me try this code practically in a different way. Open constructor.java. And here I want to create a new object of type point. Point P is equal to new point. So in the constructor of a class, we are creating an object of the same class. Let me save and compile this code. Javac constructor.java. Compiles fine, then run it, Java main. Since the class name containing method main is main. This is the Stack Overflow error as we seen in the previous videos. So we can create a new object of the same type in the constructor, but creating that object calls the constructor again, which will eventually create the new object again, and so on. That's all for this video guys. Don't forget to like and share this video, subscribe this channel if you are new, and leave your valuable comments in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.